Hey guys, it's Brandon Miniman from PocketNow.com. Back in 2010, I, like many others, got the original iPad. I was excited about the idea of having a new way to consume content. Not a netbook, not a laptop, but a slate-like device, and slates aren't necessarily new, but in this case, a slate-like device that could allow me to access all kinds of great content, movies, books, email, in a whole new kind of way. The problem is that the original iPad and the iPad 2 and every other tablet that's out there right now fails on one important front. It fails to meet the quality that you get when you look at a printed newspaper or a printed magazine. You can see pixels on the screen. It feels digital. It doesn't feel like you've picked up a magazine from the newsstand. In fact, I remember back in 2010, I would spend hours using the iPad to the point of eye strain. And the eye strain came about because I was looking at these kind of big pixels, actually. Very low resolution screen on the original iPad. Now with the new iPad and with tablets coming out in 2012 from Samsung, from Asus, and a lot of other companies, we're going to see high resolution displays that will finally replicate successfully print quality in a great form factor. And it's really going to change the way we can consume content, finally. So we're going to unbox the new iPad now, so let's get to it. So if you're going to buy an iPad, a new iPad, you have a lot of decisions to make, and that was the same case with the iPad 2, and even the first generation iPad. This time you can choose between 16, 32, and 64 gigabytes, and you can also go with 4G on either Verizon or AT&T. Furthermore, you can choose black or white. As you can see over here, I chose the Verizon 4G 32 gigabyte white version, and let me tell you why. Number one, color. I like how white deters fingerprints, so white was my choice. Number two, capacity. 64 gigabytes is a ton of space. I don't need that. But 16 gigabytes is not enough space if you want to be able to watch several back-to-back HD movies on a cross-country flight, for example. And also, if you're downloading lots of games, the Retina display uses a ton of data. So apps are huge, movies are huge, and really bumping up in space is a really good idea. And I went with Verizon this time. Previously, I had the Wi-Fi 16 gigabyte version. Verizon this time because Verizon's LTE network is very ubiquitous, or more so than AT&T. The big downside to choosing Verizon is that the fallback, the 3G EVDO, is far slower than the fallback for AT&T. So it matters whether you live in an area with AT&T LTE. That would have been my first choice, but just because Verizon has about a year head start on AT&T, I went with Verizon so I could get as much LTE as I possibly can. And hopefully I won't come across their EVDO very much because it's pretty slow. So let's unbox this, and we're not going to spend much time looking at what's actually in the box. We're going to spend some time looking closely at this screen and comparing it a little bit to the iPad 2, and then we've got a lot more coverage coming up. So here we go. It's a handy dandy tab here. We're not even going to go into the box because you know what's in there. There's a charger in there. And take this off, and let me see if I can notice a difference in terms of weight. It definitely feels a little bit heavier than the iPad 2, and it definitely feels a little bit thicker. Here is the iPad 2 on the left. You really can't tell. I mean, it's so insignificant. It's about the addition of a coin in depth, about 1 millimeter, so it's not that big of a deal. I really want to power this thing on and see what the screen looks like, finally. So here it goes, turning on. All right, here we are, and I'm going to set this up and come back in a few minutes and do some comparisons. Okay, so right now I'm zoomed in very close to the calendar icon. This is the iPad 2, the previous iPad. Can you see pixels? Let's see if we can get a little bit closer in, and without the camera going out of focus, you can see pixels, and I know you can see it even in this video in 1080p. So let's slide this off the screen and get the new iPad out here. You cannot see pixels in most cases. I just spent a few minutes trying to find pixels, and yes, I actually was able to see pixels in some areas. But when you're looking at this from a normal viewing angle, this screen is just hot. I mean, it is unbelievable in terms of how it looks like. It's not a screen, and it's great that we're getting to that point in technology where the technology is going away and all we have is just this beautiful image. So let's do a little bit more comparison here. So let's zoom out all the way. We're going to bring both on the screen. You'll notice that my iPad 2 is cracked. I think it's cracked because one day I was so angry at the low-res display that I threw a rock into it. Just kidding, I didn't do that. So I'm going to launch Safari here, and let's go to a website. Interestingly, the iPad 2 launched the browser faster. So we're going to go to Pocket Now on both, and we can actually just hit that over there. Out of the box, the brightness is set a little bit lower than probably most people would like. So let's zoom in here. Extremely smooth. Extremely smooth, a little bit slower to clear up. Let's get really close and try to see some pixels. On the iPad 2, you can absolutely see pixels here with the W. On the new iPad, you really can't tell that there are actual little dots making up the screen. Quite amazing. Let's go back to the home screen. Gestures enabled, yep. So let's go into the settings, both cleared from memory. Let's see which opens faster. Interestingly, again, the iPad 2 beat the iPad 3 in terms of speed there. And it's possible that it's because it's pulling in some information, setting up synchronization on this guy here. Right away, what I'm noticing, and by the way, this is a picture of a dog's eye, not a really hairy human. What I'm noticing right away is that the screen on the new iPad is definitely warmer. It's a little bit more yellow. The screen on the iPad 2 is cooler. And you can't tell from this video. I know you're not going to be able to tell because from about 3 feet away, it's hard for me to tell, but the detail is just so much greater here on the iPad 3. You can really see each individual hair here. We'll zoom in a little bit. This was a photo taken with an 8-megapixel camera, so it's perhaps not the best quality in the world to show off. And here's another shot, and again, you get to see the warmer color here on the iPad 3. I'm not sure if I'm the biggest fan of that, but certainly here, with the detail in the dog's nose, you can see far more detail on the iPad 3. It just looks a little bit blurry here on the iPad 2. Here's one more picture that I think serves as a good example. I've actually bumped the brightness a little bit on the iPad 3. So we're to zoom into the coconut over on the iPad 2, and you can kind of get a sense for the texture that you'll see over there. Okay, so we're looking at the coconut on the iPad 2. You can see each flake. It's a little bit soft around the edges. In fact, I'd say a lot soft around the edges. And let's look at the iPad 3. Same exact picture. And gosh, you can just see smaller pieces of the coconut more so than you can on the iPad 2. So we're going to have other comparisons coming up with the new iPad and other tablets out there, even Android tablets. So far, I'm really impressed with the quality of the screen, obviously. It's exactly what you would think it is, a screen with a tremendous pixel density lending to a display that looks like it's painted on. And I can't wait to load on some apps, play some games, read a newspaper, and really start integrating this into my life to see if it's actually going to make a difference, and most importantly, if I don't get the eye strain that I got with the iPad 2 and the iPad 1 because of that low-resolution screen. So if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, and if there's something in particular you would like to see with the new iPad, we'll be happy to show it to you. Leave a comment down below, and thanks for watching. That's it for now.